All right, good afternoon, class. This is Mr. Fitzgerald, and this is the video lesson for the homework tonight. Okay, so you're going to watch the video, you're going to read the article, then you're going to do the questions, and today you're actually going to then do a little, there's a little worksheet with some rectangles, and you're going to have to shade it, and you're going to get instructions for that later. This is about shading, or it's actually about value, and value is the second of the elements of art. So we talked about line, and now we're going to talk about value, and we're going to talk about value especially in drawing. When we talk about color, or when we talk about color later and you're using paint, we'll talk about value then too, but this is kind of like with lines, with drawing. So we're talking about value. So I'm going to first read you the questions that you're going to answer near the end, and then I'm going to read the article, then I'm going to go back to the questions, explain them, and explain that worksheet that you're going to have. All right, so first the questions are, the first one is, what is value? What is value? The second is, what is shading? And the third is, what are the four types of shading? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read the article. You can be thinking about these questions while I'm talking. All right, so value is the word artists use to describe light and dark areas in the artwork. Black is the darkest value, white is the lightest value. There are many shades of gray in between, and you're going to see the value scale above. All right, so on the article right here, okay, it gives you the value scale, which we're going to talk about in a second too, and it actually shows you value being used to create, lights and darks on these objects. And right here, this is very important, right? You need to look at this. This is showing a sphere, which is a three-dimensional circle, like a globe, and you're seeing all the different types of shadow and light, right? All the different types of shadow and light, which you can use value to show. All right, so shading is a gradual change in value. So when you go from dark to light gradually, that means it's not just black-white. Black and white, that's contrast, right? That's high contrast. Low contrast would be shading. So shading is gradual change in value. Shading is often used to create the illusion of three-dimensional form. The arrangement of values is planned so you can identify the actual or implied light source. Shading, highlights, shadow, and cast shadows are clues to the light source. All right, so it says, see the curved forms of O'Keeffe's drawing 4 above right here. This is Georgia O'Keeffe, and this is, I'm showing a branch, and you're seeing how the dark and the light are used to make three-dimensional. So I have, and it also says the values may be flat, contrasting areas, or have gradual changes, right? That's what we talked about. Artists change value to create shadow and texture. This makes drawings look more realistic. The further away a part of an object is from the light source, the darker it is. All right, just like that sphere right there, the artist is pretending that there is a light shining right here by making it look lighter. And so, of course, we have the darkest areas here are the shadows. All right, so next I'm going to read about shading. That's on the back. So shading techniques. Look once again at the drawing of the postal worker on page 142. It's not on here. We might look at it in class. It's actually by our friend Van Gogh. One of his few friends was a postal worker, and he lived in an apartment above the postal worker's house. I believe the postal worker had an extra room, and he lived with him. He's good friends with him, and he drew him a few times. So here the artist creates a work so real that you can almost feel the texture of the beard and coat. Again, we'll look at it later. I'm sorry. Do you know how this is done? One technique he used to get the result is shading. Shading is the use of light and shadow to give a feeling of depth. All right. So when something is lighter, like I said, even if it's like just texture or something like hair or something, but what's closer is going to be lighter. What's closer to the light, what's reflecting the light is going to be lighter. What's farther away is going to be darker. So here are 4 basic shading techniques, right? Cross hatching, and that's drawing lines that crisscross each other. Blending is smoothly drawing dark values little by pressing hard on the drawing medium, like a pencil. Stippling, and that's creating dark values with a dot and pattern. And I skipped hatching, which is drawing a series of thin lines all running parallel or in the same direction. And right here, you have examples of the four. You have examples of the four. And here's a note I put on here for you. In shading, you make darker values by changing how you make the marks, right? So you change it by actually changing the way that you use your utensil, your pencil, your piece of charcoal, your piece of chalk, whatever drawing, your pen, whatever drawing utensil you're using. In blending, you make dark values by bearing down hard with your pencil and making lines close together. To make it lighter, you ease up on your pencil and space out the lines. In hatching, cross-hatching, and stippling, you just change how close together the lines and dots are. So I'm going to try to show you an example. Well, I can't really show you a blending, but I can show you hatching and cross-hatching. So with hatching and cross-hatching, you've got some rectangle here. All right, and let's say right here, I'm going to make it very, very dark. So I'm drawing lines. It's just lines. We can do this too. We can kind of do scribble, scrabble, right? Back and forth, back and forth. And this is hatching because I'm going one direction. Now, when I start spreading my lines out, especially from back here, it's like I'm getting lighter and lighter, right? Lighter and lighter. Say I got my rectangle again. And this time I'm going to do cross-hatching. So I'm going to do cross-hatching. So I've got my crisscross lines. Now I'm going the other direction. This puts the cross in cross-hatching. I'm crossing, crisscrossing. So darker, the more lines are in the area, the darker it is. Okay. All right, guys, so now you're going to answer these questions, and I wrote them down here. The first question is, what is value? The second question is, what is shading? And the third question is, what are the 4 shading techniques? So if you're in 6th and 7th grade, you're going to take your separate sheet of paper, and write 1, 2, 3, and you're going to answer these questions in sentence form. If you're in 8th grade, however, you're going to practice writing things in paragraphs, because your days of just writing questions are coming to an end. Well, in high school, you're going to do some of that, but you're also going to do more papers and essays and such, and we're getting ready for tests and such, so we really need to practice writing in paragraph form. Detailed sentences, putting information in paragraph form and whatnot. So the first question is, what is value? The second question is, what is shading? The third question is, what are the 4 shading techniques? All right, guys. Now, you have another sheet with this, and it says value scale, and you have rectangles. And these rectangles well, 6th and 7th grade, you have rectangles with squares. For 6th, you have rectangles with 5 squares. 7th, you have 7 squares in 8th grade, you just have a rectangle, okay? Or you got a couple of them. And so you're gonna use, I think you're gonna use blending or you use either hatching or cross hatching. Just because they're the ones that you're most likely gonna use in real life. And you're going to practice. You're going to make one end totally black, or try to make it totally black. As black as you can, as dark as you can. And then you're going to gradually, you're going to use shading to get lighter. Right, it's going to look better than this. It's going to look better than this because it's on a shorter piece of paper. You're going to make this totally black as you can. You're going to slowly get lighter until the very end is about white. It's almost white. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Hope you do your homework. It's not hard. It's very easy. We kind of know this already. We've seen this before. Now we're learning how to do what we see and actually create it, actually do it ourselves. All right, guys. See y'all tomorrow. Have a good day.